I want you to know, one of my favorite quotes is Abraham Lincoln says, to sin by silence when they should protest makes cowards of men. And I want you to know that I am grateful that I'm not surrounded by cowards, that I'm here with people that are willing to protest for freedom. So thank you very much. I also want to tell you that you don't have to worry. It's not the sun that's caused my sunburn. I was actually in Lake Powell this last week. And it was interesting. I had taken this book. It's called The Forgotten Man. If none of you have read it, I would encourage you all to read it. And I was reading it, and it actually frightened me because it talks about the early part of the Great Depression, or actually the Great Depression. And we seem to be reliving history. We're 3 or 4 years into a recession, and the federal government keeps doing things that is actually making the recession worse. And I think this healthcare is one of those things that is making it worse. There's no question that we can't afford it. It's going to bankrupt states. But why should we fear this bill? You know, you look at what the federal government does to control us. If they control healthcare, they control one of the most important things in your life, and they'll be able to control you. To have some bureaucrat decide whether you get this operation or not. That's the thing that's frightening. The unfortunate thing is the federal government has done that not only in healthcare, but it's done it with education. I know that many of you are concerned about things that are happening, but they've taken over the education system. One of my problems that I've had is that the problems that we have as conservatives is oftentimes that we think that truths are self-evident. They are only self-evident if correct principles have been taught. Correct principles have not been taught to this younger generation. You look who put President Obama into office, it was the 18 to 30-year-olds. It's a result of not having proper education. You look at other things that the federal government is doing to control us. There was a bill, if you look at the dissenting remarks in this court case, there was one thing that the 4 Supreme Court justices said. They said that they wish they would have had the opportunity to rule on the Commerce Clause. There was actually a bill that got not very much attention this last time. It was passed by myself and the Patrick Henry Caucus. It was called the Right to Grow Food. It was simply designed to challenge Wicker versus Filborn, which was the massive expansion of the Commerce Clause. We have a law in the book that now that we could challenge the federal government's expansion of the Commerce Clause. We need to make sure that we encourage our state leaders to make sure that they challenge and push back on the federal government. But the bigger issue is we need to make sure that our state leaders have the courage that you have to come and protest. Because you read in that bill, there were some things, actually some good things that we came from the ruling. First, although it's sad, but we do know that it's not going to be the Supreme Court that upholds our inalienable rights. Chief Justice Roberts made that perfectly clear, that he felt that this was a political decision. We need to make sure that we stay actively involved and influence our neighbors and educate our neighbors and make sure that we continue to help our leaders make the right choices. The second thing, though, that was ruled on that not very many people have talked about is that the federal government, it was ruled that the federal government doesn't have the right to take punitive damages against states that don't comply. And so, in other words, the Medicaid, Medicare money that we have, if we don't comply, we still have that money. That should give our leaders courage to make sure that they stand up and do what Carl Wimmer's saying is absolutely important. Ronald Reagan said, there are no easy answers, but there are simple answers if we but have the courage to do what we know is morally right. We all know what's morally right. We need to make sure that we stay involved. I have to admit, like Representative Wimmer, that going on to the place at Lake Powell where I had cell phone coverage, talking to Representative Frank, and where he informed me what the ruling was, I was depressed. But we can't let that, this country is worth fighting for. And I want you to know that with confidence, with people like you, that I will do everything in my power to make sure that we continue this fight. I encourage you to do the same. Thank you very much for coming out today. I appreciate it.